Good morning. And let's just open our hearts with gratitude and give thanks to Norman Bentley for bringing that wonderful musical inspiration. He's our in-house flautist, and it was so sweet. And of course, we opened with our Richard Payne trio doing Stand. And I love that song. What do you do when everything else around you is falling apart? The song says, you just stand. But you see, you're not just standing aimlessly, you are standing in your truth. You are standing upon holy ground. You are standing in remembrance of the Spirit of God that is leading, guiding, directing, and protecting you on your journey. So thank you for that wonderful rendition, Richard Payne and the Richard Payne Trio. I want to remind you that our prayer team is here with you, and they are holding virtual sacred space as we do in our Sunday services. There's always a soul who is set aside, and they maintain a consciousness of prayer. They hold a high vibration and a sacred intention for all of us who have gathered together to worship and to be in community and to commune with one another. And so we still have virtual communion, virtual prayer. And so I want you to know, if you have a prayer need, our prayer team is still praying with you. You can go online and get the number to call in for sacred prayer. It's a great morning, and I'm so glad to be here. And I'm thrilled that you are here with each of us this morning. And first of all, I want to thank all of you who were so kind and loving. You know, last week I mentioned that I was looking for some grits. And I should have known that this community is such a loving, kind, generous, and faithful community. So a couple of days later, I opened my doorstep, and Barbara Gray had put some grits on my front door steps, and that was wonderful. And then Chandra Williams told me she went online and ordered 2 boxes for me, and those came the other day. And someone else called me up and texted me rather and asked me did I need grits. Several people did, and I said I'm good. So I just want to thank you all for reaching out and answering that call that I didn't realize I was putting out there. But that's what this time is all about, that we have to remember that we're here for one another, and that we open our hearts and share out of the bounty of our spirit so that all are taken care of and all are remembered during this time. So I'm grateful and thankful for you, but I have enough grits. And matter of fact, we had, my mother and I had some grits last night, and they were delicious. So I thank you for that. And I also want to thank those of you who took the time to tune in to the AGNT, an association of Global New Thought Ministries. And we put on a wonderful program Friday, bringing ministers, New Thought ministers from different traditions, and whether it's agape or spiritual centers for spiritual living, science of mind, unity churches and centers. And we were just putting out the energy that all is well. And that, you know, from this experience, we know that something wonderful is being birthed on the planet, even though it may look a little different and it may feel a little confusing, and there might be the energy of the unknown surrounding where we are today, but all is well. And so that was a wonderful program that fed my spirit. I had a chance to participate with some of my mentors and spiritual leaders who feed me and feed my souls. And so it was a great time. When I came in this morning, Allison came up and she said, you know, that she and her family were watching the program, and her niece and great niece were watching it. And when little Cameron saw me when I came on the screen, she said to her mother, "Oh, look, Mommy, there's the God we see at church." And I thought that was so cute, you know, 3 years old. She knew my face because she comes to church. I christened her, but I thought, how sweet is that? There's the God we see at church. And as she told me that this morning, I was thinking about that little Cameron, I am trying to put on my Christ nature. I am trying to put on my divine nature so that when you see me, when you look upon me, you see the face of God. You see the energy of God. You see the activity of God, of the divine. So thank you for that wonderful reminder that my purpose truly is to let the beingness of God fill my individual being so that my doing is expressed. Because in him I do live, I move, and I have my being. So thank you for that reminder. And this morning, we're going to continue with the story. Some say it was the greatest story ever told. And I'm speaking of the story of the resurrection, of the triumph of life over death, of, success and victory over defeat and victimhood. And it's so appropriate, the story is so appropriate for this time. Every story has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And we began this story, the resurrection story, we began it on Palm Sunday with Jesus' triumphant entry into Jerusalem. And then we continued with it with the crucifixion experience on Good Friday. And then, of course, followed by the resurrection on Sunday morning. But that's not the end of the story. That's not the end. In fact, there was an after party. That's what I'm calling it, an after party. What happened after the resurrection? And last week I introduced the concept that Jesus had appeared to his disciples while they were fishing on the beach, in the water, and he was on the beach. And he called out to them and asked them, had they caught any fish? And they said, no, we haven't caught anything. And he says, put your nets on the right side of the boat. Cast your net on the right side of the boat. And we know from the story that, boy, there were a multitude of fish after that experience and that activity of casting their consciousness on the right side of the boat. And then he calls them as they're hauling the fish in. And I want to pick up the story from here because this is the after party and what has taken place. And I'm reading from John 21, verse 10. Well, it won't be through 25, but for a minute, I'm going to stop at 17, and then I'll pick up the scripture a little later. But it says, Jesus said, bring some of the fish you've just caught. Simon Peter joined them and pulled the net to shore. 153 big fish. And even with all those fish, the net didn't rip. Jesus said, breakfast is ready. Not one of the disciples dared to ask, who are you? They knew it was the master. And Jesus then took the bread and he gave it to them, and he did the same with the fish. Now, this was the third time Jesus had shown himself alive to the disciples since he was had been raised from the dead. And then there was Simon Peter. And so after breakfast, Simon Peter is there with Jesus, and Jesus asks him, Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these? Yes, Master, you know that I love you. And Jesus said, feed my lambs. Then he asked a second time, Simon, son of John, do you love me? Yes, Master, you know I love you. Jesus said, shepherd my sheep. And then he said it a third time. Simon, son of John, do you love me? Peter was now upset that he had asked for the third time, do you love me? So he answered, Master, you know everything there is to know. You have got to know that I love you. And Jesus said, feed my sheep. I'm telling you the very truth now. When you were young, you dressed yourself and went wherever you wish. But when you get old, you'll have to stretch out your hands while someone else dresses you and takes you where you don't want to go. And he had said this to hint at the kind of death by which Peter was going to glorify the God. And then he commanded him, follow me. Follow me. And so we'll leave that here for the time being. But this is a powerful part in this after party. And I began to think, why is it that Jesus asked Peter 3 times, do you love me? Do you love me more than these? And of course, Peter answers, but he's getting a little frustrated as to why Jesus would even ask him that. Now, you want to know why Jesus asked him 3 times if he loved him? He did this so that it could balance out the 3 times that Peter had denied even knowing Jesus upon his arrest and his arrival and impending death. Remember, Jesus said to Peter, you will have denied me 3 times before the cock crows. And what happened? As Peter was watching on the sidelines as Jesus was being arrested and crucified, and people said, I know you, you know him. And he was like, no, don't know him. Nope, 3 times. And so this is a powerful point in the scripture here, in this story, in the after story of the resurrection, because Peter was now being given a chance to affirm his love 3 times. He denied 3 times, and now he has an opportunity to affirm his love for the Christ, for Jesus, 3 times. Now, metaphysically, we should know this, that an affirmation is simply a statement of truth that we hold in consciousness. And there's a process that whenever we go about wanting to clean out our consciousness, when we want to free ourselves from any type of limiting thoughts or feelings or energy, we deny them. We free ourselves through a use of a denial. But after a denial, we should always put an affirmation into the consciousness. So after we say, I let go of, I'm free from, this has no power over me, we then must substitute an affirmation of the truth. And so we deny and then we affirm. This is a powerful spiritual experience and a spiritual activity because remember, we're always working on our consciousness. And there are always things that we are holding in mind that we need to be free of. We need to release ourselves from it, be it fear or doubt or limitation. So you might use a denial that says, you know what, I'm free from fear in this moment. This situation no longer holds power over me and over my life. But you can't stop there. You must then affirm a truth statement. I am a child of God. Fearless, bold, divinely protected, whatever it is that you want to affirm, so that you can hold that in your consciousness. So we clear out error thoughts, limiting thoughts, fearful thoughts, harmful thoughts, negative thoughts, and then as we release that and deny that, however many times we need to, we then begin the process to affirm the truth so that we become anchored in the truth, and we fill our consciousness, which is going to feed us and manifest into our lives. So this is a powerful point that Jesus is teaching Peter about the power of denial and affirmation as tools for consciousness, tools to help us really to make sure that what we're holding in our mind and in our hearts are what we want to manifest. So, and the process is we deny error and then we affirm the truth, right? So Peter had an opportunity to do this 3 times. Now, what I found interesting when he was asking Peter, do you love me? He used his full name. He said, Simon, son of John, do you love me? Simon, son of John, do you love me? Simon, son of John, do you love me? Now, what's interesting about that, and you know what, forgive me because I feel like teaching this morning. You know, my congregation knows, for those of you who are just tuning in and maybe are not familiar with Unity and myself as a spiritual leader here, sometimes I want to preach, sometimes I want to teach, sometimes I want to motivate and inspire, but this day, Spirit said, we need to be fed. I want to feed you some sustenance. Because we are facing some interesting times that we want to make sure that our consciousness is strong and we understand what is taking place in our inner world so that we can handle what is taking place in the outer world. So these are tools that Jesus was trying to give Peter, and I am now sharing with each of you. It's all about consciousness. So what I found interesting, he asked him using his name, Simon, son of John. Now, in the olden days, when your name was always attached, your first name was always also attached to the first name of your father. So it becomes Simon, and it would say Simon, son of John. That would be his name. Of course, it gets shortened to Simon or to Peter, but it's Simon, son of John. Just like it became you could say Heshua, son of Joseph, or Heshua ben Joseph, which would be Jesus, son of Joseph. But he's never called Heshua ben Joseph. It's always Heshua, or Jesus, son of God. I think that's powerful. So we're attaching my name, my nature is always attached to God, right? So it could become Sylvia, daughter of God, right? So he calls him by his full name, Simon, son of John. Now, we know that Simon Peter means faith, and we also know spiritually and metaphysically that John represents love. So what this tells me is that as he's teaching Peter about how he wants his consciousness to be going forward from here on, it's saying that faith has to be connected to the experience of love. Simon, son of God. Faith is born of love. Faith is born of love. That love is a foundation that our faith can rest upon. Think about this, that it's hard to have faith in something or someone that you don't love. Right? It's hard to have faith. Let's suppose you have a view of God as a vengeful God, a violent God, a judgmental God. It's hard for you to place your faith in that. But what about a God of love? What about a person of love? It's easier to build and establish our faith on that which we love. So faith and love must always go together. So he's calling him. He wants him to be assured that he's building his faith connected to his love. So Simon, son of John, faith connected to love, that he is grounded. Jesus wants him to be grounded in love, his faith to be grounded in love, because that's what enables him, that's what will enable him to be stronger as he goes about trying to then lead the rest of the disciples once Jesus departs, once he fully ascends. So faith is anchored in love, right? So this is what we're working on too. We want to make sure that our love becomes anchored in God, and that our faith is anchored in love. Because Peter, you want it to be solid. Peter's called the rock. You want your truth to be solid as a rock, strong. And love and faith helps you to do that. And Jesus says to him, upon this rock, I'm going to build my church. So we're going to build our consciousness. The church is where you are. The church is in your heart. The church is your spirit. It's your awareness. And he's going to build, right, this church. He's going to build your consciousness, your inner sanctuary upon faith and truth. And it's going to be solid and strong. And this is what we need in these days ahead, to have ourselves anchored, our faith anchored in love, and in our consciousness anchored. So this is what we're doing. Now we're going to get back to the story, because this is about feeding the consciousness with what we need for the days ahead. Interesting. So back to the story. I continue, and here I'm reading with verse 18. Now, so Jesus tells them, of course, these three things: feed my sheep, and he says, follow me, follow me. And this is where the story picks up. So as Jesus is saying this to Peter, it says, turning his head, Peter noticed the disciple Jesus loved following right behind. When Peter noticed him, he asked Jesus, well, Master, what's going to happen to him? Jesus said, if I want him to live until I come again, what's that to you? You follow me. I'm setting the path out for you. He said, that's how the rumor got out among the brothers that this disciple wouldn't die. But that is not what Jesus said. He simply said, if I want him to live until I come again, what is that to you? This is the same disciple who was eyewitness to all these things and who wrote them down. And we all know that his eyewitness account is reliable and accurate. There are so many other things Jesus did. If they were all written down, each one of them, one by one, I can't imagine a world big enough to hold such a library of books. So there were many more things that Jesus did, but we are focusing right now on his last experiences with his disciple, in particular Peter who represents faith. So as the story continues, Jesus has just given him an opportunity, Peter, to affirm his truth and to affirm his love, right? Now, no sooner than he does that, and Jesus expresses that and tells him, feed my sheep, do all these things, you follow me, Peter is off looking somewhere about, oh, wait, yeah, but what about him? What's going to happen to him? You see, Jesus had just given him a hint about what was going to happen to him. And he goes, well, what about this one here? And I thought, this is just so like us as human beings, I tell you. We are always, we get off track. We get off our directed path. And we start wondering, well, what's going on over here? What's going to happen to him? Now, didn't he just say, follow me? And I love Jesus' answer to him. He says, well, what if I say I want him to, remain alive until I come again? What is that to you? And now if I were to interpret that, I would say, and he says, you follow me. I would interpret that as Jesus giving him a little shade, right? He's saying, look, I'm not talking about him. I'm talking to you. Mind your business. What happens to him is none of your concern. I am giving you sustenance to feed your spirit, to feed your life, so that you can follow me. You can walk on the path. But if you're trying to follow somebody else and what they're doing, you can't follow me. What is that to you, what he's doing, and what I give to another? And this is so important for us because we allow ourselves to get so distracted when we take our eyes off of the spirit that indwells us and is all around us. Remember this. Peter was the one who was actually walking. Remember, he was the one who was walking on water. He actually walked on water, and he was walking towards Jesus on the water. Until, of course, he got distracted by what? The wind and the waves. And in his distraction, he began to sink. And so Jesus is trying to give Peter so many opportunities not to be distracted, but to shore up his faith so that it becomes solid and it becomes strong, so that he knows that he's going to be able to lead. He wants him to lead. He wants him to go forth. But he's trying to help Peter, look, get focused. Stop worrying about, if you had focused on me, you would not have sunk. Now I'm giving you an opportunity. I'm telling you the process about feeding my sheep, staying with me, following me, going within. And here you are looking over here. What about him? What about him? What about her? Look what they're doing. Oh, all that does is take you off your path. It takes you away from what the Spirit is giving you to do and directing you in your life's journey and expression. You follow me. That's the call. Don't worry about others. You do what I'm giving you to do. Remember the verse in Proverbs 3:6 says, in all of thy ways, acknowledge him and he will direct your path. So, just follow what you're given. Stay attuned to the divine. See and hear and feel the presence guiding you, that spirit of the Christ in you to move you, and listen for that. Because when you're on your path, it's too easy to be distracted by other people, other things, and other situations. If you're going to anchor yourself in faith and in love, you've got to be able to continue to follow the inner guidance and the direction that you're given from on high. Now, Peter is such an important part because as he's learning these things, and Jesus is trying to teach him all this really quick before he ascends, it's important to recognize the part that Peter's playing, this whole last scene. And I know it may sound a little convoluted, but I want you to get this. I want you to hang in there with me. Early on, Jesus had said about Peter when he said, upon this rock I will build my church. I want to read the scripture of where that comes from, because Jesus is actually giving Peter the keys to his consciousness. He's giving him some information about how to keep his mind clear and strong, how to use denials and affirmation, how to understand the power of prayer and the power of positivity and the power of keeping your mind focused, because the thoughts you think are going to be the thoughts you will experience and you will live. So this comes from Matthew, verse 16. And it says, when Jesus arrived in the villages of Caesarea Philippi, he asked his disciples, what are people saying about the Son of Man and who he is? They replied, well, some think he's John the Baptizer. Some say Elijah. Some say Jeremiah or one of the other prophets. He pressed them, and how about you? Who do you say that I am? And Simon Peter said, you are the Christ, the Messiah, the Son of the living God. Remember, the Son of God, right? Simon Bar-Jonah, Simon, son of John, Jesus, son of God, Sylvia, daughter, son of God. He says, thou art the Christ, the Messiah, the Son of the living God. And Jesus came back and he said, God bless you, Simon, son of Jonah, which is John. You didn't get that answer out of books or from leaders. My Father in heaven, God himself, let you in on this secret of who I really am. And now I'm going to tell you who you really are. You are Peter, a rock. This is when Peter gets his name. Simon gets his new name. You are Peter, a rock. This is the rock upon which I will put together my church, my inner sanctum. A church so expansive with energy that not even the gates of hell will be able to keep it out. I'm going to build my church, your consciousness, your inner sanctum, upon this rock. And he says, with so much expansive energy, which is the divine energy, right? So much the life force of God. I'm going to put so much of that energy within this church, within this inner sanctum of your being, that not even the gates of hell will be able to keep it out. And that's not all, he says. You will have complete and free access to God's kingdom. Keys to open any and every door. No more barriers between heaven and earth and heaven. I talked about that Friday. We're birthing a new experience. Not heaven and earth and heaven. Heaven on earth, heaven in earth. They are one. This is one experience we're going to end up having. And he says, a yes on earth is a yes in heaven, and a no on earth is a no in heaven. All right? So he's telling, I'm giving you the keys to the kingdom. I'm giving you the keys to heaven. That when you say yes, that yes, if you say a yes on earth, it's going to be a yes in heaven. If you say a no on earth, it's going to be a no in heaven. This is so important. And then he swore his disciples to secrecy and made them promise that they would tell no one that he was the Messiah. Now, this is so important because what this is saying is that, friends, everything is about our consciousness. And the keys to the kingdom are that you have the power to deny and affirm, to say yes and to say no. But the important part is you must understand if you say a no in earth or on earth, it's going to be a no in heaven. If you say a yes in earth, it'll be a yes in heaven. So what that's saying to us is creatively is that when you deny something, it's gone. But then when you affirm it, it'll be established to you. So we need to be conscious of what we're holding in our consciousness. Are you looking out here in the manifest realm, in the realm of the earth, of the world, and you're saying, oh, wait a minute, I'm afraid of that, or, oh, wait a minute, this may happen. Know that you are binding to you what you say no to in the earth is what you're saying no to. But also what you say yes to is in earth is what you're saying yes to in heaven, which means that your words are going to manifest. They're going to manifest. That's the keys to the kingdom, the keys to creativity. You hold those. So you need to be conscious of, are you using your, affirmation and your denials? Are you denying that anything in this earth has any power over you that is not of the highest good, that is not of God? What are you giving into? So we say no to that which we do not want, no to that which is false, no to that which is in error in our consciousness, and yes to what we know to be true. And a truth is just a universal principle of God or spirituality that doesn't change. It's changeless. I'm going to put my truth in the spiritual principles that are everlasting, that are solid, spiritual laws that work all the time. So the spirit of love doesn't just work whether I'm good or bad, it's always love as a spiritual principle is always there. Prosperity as a spiritual principle is always there. Health as a spiritual principle and law is always there. I'm going to grab those and affirm that and deny the limitation of lack or illness or confusion. Deny that and I will affirm, stand firm in the truth that I know. I'm going to bind my words. Whatever I bind on earth will be bound in heaven. Whatever I deny on earth and loose on the earth will be loosed in heaven. I hold the keys to the kingdom. I hold the keys to my consciousness. So Jesus is instructing, this is very important, the message that he's giving Peter, trying to help Peter. So he's saying, look, don't worry about what's happening over there. You get your consciousness right. You follow me. I'm setting out a path for you to walk upon. And it's a path of truth. It's a path of power. It's a path of purpose. But you've got to stay on the path. You have to keep your mind stayed upon God, the good, the truth. And when we do that, and if you feed yourself enough of the truth, your consciousness grows. Remember, they were eating fish and bread. And fish, last time we understood, means a multitude of divine ideas, right? And they were feeding a breakfast on fish and bread is the substance of life. And so they're eating. Take this in appropriate. Feed your spirit on spiritual things, on the sustenance that's going to help you move through this experience. Don't worry about what's happening on TV and what they're saying. There's a lot of confusion out there. You stay on the path. You follow that inner guidance and feed yourself and work with the spiritual truths that are coming to you in your time of prayer and meditation and affirmation and releasing and denial. Remember, when he asked Peter, do you love me? Those 3 times, he said, then feed my lambs. And then he said, shepherd my sheep. And the 3rd time he said, feed my sheep. Lamb and sheep represent, metaphysically, they represent those innocent, pure, divine ideas in consciousness. And so we have to take care of them. A sheep will go all off, right? So when you get a divine idea, when you get a leading or guidance from God, you've got to make sure that you feed it, you guide it, you guard it like a shepherd, right? You take care of those innocent, pure thoughts in consciousness. Because if you don't, it won't. And if you're not guarding your consciousness, those thoughts are going to run like sheep. They'll be straying here and straying there. You've got to pull it together. Make sure that you are guiding and guarding what you are allowing yourself to hold in your consciousness, and you must guide and guard what you are allowing yourself to be fed upon. The truth, the sustenance of divine ideas, feed that to your consciousness. There will be a lot of things in these days ahead that we will hear and that we will read about. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't pay attention to those, but I'm saying get first, if you have to, make sure that you're going to God first. There's a saying that says go to God first and then to man as God directs. So you go to God first and get strong in that, get rooted in that. And then if you need to, then you can follow the direction of maybe the World Health Organization or the CDC. Get your source, your information, literally on the earth from the earthly good sources, and of course in heaven from the spiritual sources. Don't get caught up in everything you're reading. Don't get caught up in the vibration that's out here. You hold the keys to the kingdom. You hold the keys to your consciousness. You must feed and feast that upon that. And when you are feeding yourself truth, after a while you're going to be able to trust what comes into your mind, what thoughts come, the directions come, and then you can know that that's you can trust that. You can have faith in these higher thoughts that come to you. And you can then begin with your faith and with your love to begin to follow the guidance that you are getting. This is the time to do that. As light bearers, as truth students, during this time, it's important that you work with consciousness. It's important that you lay hold of your power that you were giving, that you have been given as a spiritual being, so that you can direct your path. But in all of thy ways, acknowledge him, and he will direct your path. You follow the truth of the Spirit of the living God in you. Follow me. So I say, eat up, feast on truth, and stay on the path. Stay on the path. Follow the Christ within. Namaste, and be so abundantly and richly blessed. And so it is. Amen. And so let us take a moment now to listen to some special music as we prepare for meditation. Because meditation is appropriate that we go. So I'm going to have you prepare for special music. And just allow yourself to feast on the words that were shared this morning. Open your heart, and we'll go deeper in a time of meditation. But first, let us listen to, once again, Mr. Norman Bentley. Thank you. Wow, amazing. Thank you. And now I want to take a moment to just feast on the truth that we know will set us free as we enter into a time of meditation, a brief time. But I want you to find that place where you're comfortable and allow yourself to breathe deeply. So I invite you to take a few conscious breaths. Just inhale. Begin to feel the body letting go and relaxing. And we always want to exhale twice as long as our inhalation. But take a full, deep, deep, slow breath inward. And exhale. Once again, just inhale deeply. And exhale fully. And one more time. Inhale deeply. And exhale fully. For as we continue to breathe with ease and grace, we can more fully let go and let God. Let go and let God. What are those thoughts and feelings you want to be free to eliminate from your conscious awareness? Those thoughts that would bind you to limitation and negativity and fear and doubt. Release those. Let them go. And you can use my favorite denial, which is I am free from whatever it is you want to be free from. I am free from fear. I am free from doubt. I am free from thoughts of illness, lack, poverty. I let those go. And I fill my consciousness. I feast on the truth that I am filled with faith, the power, the perceiving power of faith, which is the ability to join my faith with the substance of God and to bring my inner desires into manifestation, into reality. I feast upon the truth that divine love in me draws to me all that is needed for my life and affairs. I affirm this truth that God is ever present within me, all around me, in my life and in my affairs, guiding and guarding me to the greater wisdom of spiritual principle that is the same today and yesterday and tomorrow. I trust in that. What can you release and say no? And what are you saying yes to? For whatever you loose in the earth and let go shall be loosed in heaven. Whatever you bind together, whatever you affirm, whatever you say yes to in your consciousness, in your heart, shall be manifested in your life and affairs. So spend this sacred moment in silence, offering your denial and your affirmation, your freedom from and your affirming of peace. Be still for a moment. Oh, thank you, thank you. Infinite and divine presence of love and light. Thank you so much. As we move forward, we want to now affirm the truth. We deny that which we are seeing in the world will have lasting power. And we want to affirm this truth for our world. It's called the great invocation. So let us know this together. It says, from the point of light within the mind of God, let light stream forth into human minds. Let light descend on earth. And from the point of love within the heart of God, let love stream forth into human hearts. May love increase on earth. And from the center, where the will of God is known, let purpose guide all human wills, the purpose which the masters know and serve. And from the center, which we call the human race, let the plan of love and light work out. And may it seal the door where error dwells. Let light and love and power restore the plan on earth. Let light and love and power restore the plan on earth. Let light and love and power restore the plan on earth. Beloved ones, I thank you so much for joining us today. And I want you to take this affirmation for the week with you into your hearts so that you can remember to build up your consciousness and to shore it up with faith and love. This is the affirmation that we're holding for this week. It says, I feed my consciousness pure and powerful thoughts as I follow the path of love and faith. I am free from distractions as I am guided, directed, and empowered in divine ways. I stay on the path. Praise God, and so it is. Let this be our affirmation for this coming week, that we might remember who we are and whose we are. And in so doing, let us take a moment to bless our tithes and our offerings, because we are so grateful. We know that we serve a good God, that we serve a God who is truly inexhaustible, and that as we touch that inexhaustible source and presence that we call God, that inexhaustible source and presence that is all around us will feed us and guide us and nourish us as we move on this journey into the unknown. We are binding heaven upon this earth, and this is what we say for our offering of our blessings and our tithes. It is divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. This is the cycle of giving and receiving. We are so grateful for you and for the gifts that you share with this ministry that enable us to still be here as a beacon of light and love, shining forth. There'll be an opportunity for you to give through our website at the end of this broadcast. That'll be put on the screen for you. You can do it through PayPal. You can join a mobile app of, what is it called? Givelify. You can go to our website. You can even mail in your donations. We are grateful for everything that you share with us. And now let us just say our prayer for protection, that we might know the path that we're traveling on is one that is guided from on high. Let's affirm the prayer for protection. Together now, it is this. The light of God surrounds us, and the love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us, and the presence of God watches over us. For wherever we are, God is, and all is well. And that, beloved ones, is the truth. Feast on that. Namaste and blessings. Be well and be blessed. So it is. Amen.